Happy Wednesday, everybody. Linda Hahn here, coming to you from beautiful Palm Bay, Florida, and my co-host, Deborah Stanley. She's up there in New Jersey.
And
we have our
beautiful New Jersey.
What? We're all from New Jersey today. Yeah. Yeah.
We're all from New Jersey.
And we have our guest, Mark Lipinski. We're going to talk to him in a couple minutes. So again, we wanted to welcome you. If you have questions for our guests, please put them in the chat, and we're going to be monitoring the chat the whole time. Our program is brought to you by our sponsors, Fox Chapel Publishing, Banyan Boutiques, Northcott, and QuoteWoman.com. And they all put up some door prizes every week, and we really, really thank them for it. So what is a little fun Zoomcast, and we hope that we can help you to turn off the world for an hour and laugh and not think about everything that's going on. Our guests, you're very carefully picking so that you can really have a good time, learn a little something, and still laugh. Now, when we do the door prizes, we do want your cameras on. We do want your cameras on. If we don't care, as long as you're wearing clothes, we don't care what's going on. Wearing clothes. So,
Hi, everybody.
Do you have anything to add?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay.
We're good. Yep,
All right.
I think you covered it all.
All right. Now, our guest is a very special friend of Deb and I both. And we all kind of grew up together, I guess, through the State Quilt Guild of New Jersey. And I usually have some kind of blackmail something for our guests or for Debbie. So my story with Mark is I did not start flying till, what year was that, Deb?
Recording.
Oh,
we were going to quilt market in Minneapolis, and I was terrified to fly. And Mark had just gotten his GoPro camera. So we're talking back and forth on Facebook, the Jersey people, and found out that Mark was going to be on the 9 o'clock flight to Minneapolis. Now, we're on the 9 o'clock flight to Minneapolis, and we had our friend Lacey Hill with us. And I'm full of Xanax, and I'm afraid Mark's going to be on there with his GoPro. So it ends up, he said what seat number he was, and he was sitting right behind me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a celebrity with his GoPro, and he's going to get me on there puking. So, but anyway, he was on the 9 o'clock at night flight. So I'm watching everybody coming. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get me. But he was on the 9 o'clock flight. So that's my Mark story.
You're not afraid of that.
Not now.
Right, yeah.
Not now. Oh my God, I'm all over the place.
Right.
he doesn't even need Xanax anymore.
I don't even need Xanax.
Is that right?
And I know where all the restaurants, the United Clubs, I know where everything is in the airport. People actually ask me, where's a good place to eat in this airport? So we're on it.
I still don't enjoy flying. I mean, I've flown all over the world, and I still don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't feel comfortable. I don't use Xanax or anything anymore, but it's just not a comfortable feeling for me.
Oh,
I'm controlling.
Before, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to share. So what's in my glass? In my glass today is my bottle of Cupcake Sauvignon Blanc.
You have to hold that bottle
I got
up
alcohol.
at the end.
Yes, I give myself a ding dong.
Hold that bottle up at the end, and we can see how much of it is left.
Come on. Alan always makes sure that I have dinner ready before this starts. so we can actually eat when we get home. So now let's see. I know Debbie. Deb, what's in your glass there, Deb? Where'd she go?
You know me.
She's
Where's
not.
your video?
Coke Zero. That's it.
Coke Zero.
Is my video? Coke
Oh,
Zero. Same.
Okay.
Same.
All right, we're starting this off good.
I
Mark,
have no kidneys and I'm drinking hard lemonade.
there we go. You can
There
get a
you
double
go.
ding dong. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
So you're going to talk to us today about numerous things, but slow stitching.
Oh,
Slow
slow stitching.
stitching.
Slow stitching.
Well, slow stitching is something that I started a couple of years ago because, you know, I had become, after all these years of stitching and kind of being, you know, rushing to get things into magazines, as you now know what that's like, rushing deadlines to make fabric, rushing deadlines to get quick quilts to make in classes, I frankly got completely burned out with quilting. Couldn't do it, was just burned out and just kind of stopped. And what started me back again was to actually start like doing embroidery, hand quilting, and I realized that the thing that was really going to leave a legacy for me was not in fact the stuff that I did quickly, but the stuff that I did slowly. And what I had taken out of the craft and the beauty of quilting was the spiritual side, which was actually kind of becoming one with my fabric. I know that sounds a little airy-fairy. Becoming one with my fabric, really becoming attached to what I'm doing and not just doing it to get it done. And that's how the whole slow stitching thing began. And it kind of took off. Now, I had backed off from it a little because when I got sick, I just didn't have the energy to, you know, do a podcast. I didn't have the energy to do the slow stitching website, etc. It was just kind of too much for me. And my swan song was actually a slow stitching retreat, which some of the people here today had attended. And it really is a combination of the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. And that's what I like to put into my quilts now. And that is kind of, as I said before, putting myself into my quilts. It's kind of like meditating while I do my work, letting it be like meditation, as if you were knitting, and that repetitive knitting, the repetition of cross stitch. The same thing with the rocking of your needle with quilting. You get a there's a spiritual side that you get in contact with that frankly I never had any contact with my quilting before. It's also doing morning pages from The Artist's Way, which is every morning I wake up. I still do it. I've been doing it for 20 years, writing 3 pages of just gibberish until something hits. That is kind of deep inside, and it kind of centers me. And then, of course, there's the mental, and there's the design element of it all. But that's really what slow stitching is. It's really kind of taking us back to our roots, back to the craft, back to the art of quilting, and not just buying all this shit that we don't know what to do with.
Do you have a preference, like embroidery or hand quilting, or?
First of all, I love to hand quilt. And I also love to embroider. But my thing was, before I became a quilter, and many of you may not know this, but my goal was to become a cross-stitch designer. And that was what I started doing. I started cross-stitching and started designing samplers and photos and taking photos and making them into cross stitch and portraits. And that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I got turned on to quilting by watching Eleanor Burns. And I thought, you know, she works in squares. And as I got more into it, they were like, they work in squares, just like cross stitch. The colors are the squares. And then I thought, oh my God, am I out of my mind? I could have a whole queen size quilt made by the time I cross stitch 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And I'm like, that was the end of the cross stitch. I'm like, forget it. I'm going big. So that's what slow stitching is. And I think that to think that you can just kind of jump into slow stitching is kind of erroneous too. I caution everyone, don't just kind of sit down and think, when's it going to happen? I say it takes a good 30 days of daily, just 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day of just mindless stitching, quilting or piecing, hand piecing, any kind of handwork, and that brings you into your center. And frankly, this is something interesting. When I was on the table last week with my radiation, for some of you who don't know, I had a brain tumor that was just, I just had a course of radiation this past week. And when I was under this mask, which was so claustrophobic, they mold it to your face and then they screw it to the table and then they swaddle you so you don't move. And at first I was kind of panicked. I went through a couple of seconds of panic, and then I was able to remember what I learned through my slow stitching. And between that and Valium, I was able to calm myself and get through the half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it took. It's very interesting how it then bleeds into the other parts of your life. So I urge you to try it.
You miss your machine?
I still use my machine right now, as a matter of fact. Well, that's interesting. I didn't. I had a very dear friend, Bonnie Espenshade, who was kind of my quilting partner in crime. She's the quilter that would go to the quilt shows with me, that would go to the quilt shops with me, that would come to my house 3 or 4 times a week, and we would just sew on our machines. I'd put up my machine on my dining room table and the two of us would be there and we would have lunch and we would sew and talk. And she was such an important close friend. And several years ago, she died very unexpectedly, very quickly. Like within a week, she went to the hospital and then died. And I was lost. And I'm telling you, I literally put those machines that were on my table, they sat there for a good month or so in my dining room, and I took them off the table finally, and I put them to the side of the room on the floor, and I did not use my machine for 4 years. It was too painful for me to even think about quilting without her. It was the most intense friendship I think I've ever had in terms of fondness that I'll be honest with you. I cried for weeks and months after she died. I didn't do that for my own mother. It was just that kind of a relationship. And I couldn't bear sewing without her. So that's when I got into a little more handwork, wool, handwork, penny rugs, more back to cross stitch, and then I started painting because I needed a creative outlet. That's what gives me breath. But I didn't know what to do without fabric. And interestingly enough, during COVID, when we needed face masks, I went through all my stash and picked out fabrics, and I started making masks. My first goal was 100, to make 100 masks. And it was the first time since Bonnie had died, which was a little over 4 years, that I started sewing. And I was like a light bulb went off, and it was like I had forgotten how much I loved it and how much fun I would have at the machine and what it meant to me. And you could slow stitch on a machine, by the way, too. It's a matter of meditation while you're actually doing your work and doing your sewing. And I was thrilled to be back into it. I was just thrilled to have rediscovered quilting again. Because it was such an important part of my life. And I'm both thrilled and sorry to say that I'm now buying more fabric that I don't need. And I am working on, a Lone Star, and I have a book a quilt that's going to one of Mary Kerr's new books next year for the Quilts of Valor. So I'm back. I'm back. So now I sew on, I paint on Wednesdays and I sew on Thursdays and Fridays. That's what I do.
Mary Kerr is our guest next week, by the way.
Well, say hello for me. I love Mary Kerr.
Michelle. And how you had your tendrils in quite a number of things.
I did.
You did. And what kind of things were you into?
In terms of the quilting?
Yeah, you had fabric.
Right.
Like
I had
the magazine.
and everything. And can I tell you something? I mean, if I had to do it over again, I would do it very differently. Very differently. I think that I was taking advice from a lot of people that wasn't necessarily giving me good advice, but well-intentioned. So, it was kind of like, listen, make hay while the sun shines because this isn't going to last forever. And so between the magazine and designing fabric, which I really had no interest in doing, and was kind of pushed into it, and then teaching and traveling. And frankly, to be very frank about my career in quilting, my best work was the magazine. I changed, I think, and I'll say this humbly, but I think I've kind of changed the course of where quilting was. It opened the door for modern quilts. It opened the door for different formats of magazines, different kinds of the way people designed and the way they spoke, the way they wrote articles. I think I kind of opened the door for that a little. I noticed that after I did my magazine for about a year, I noticed McCall's and other magazines, not their format changed, but certainly their art design changed, that kind of thing. That's what I did best. I was never a great quilter. I was an okay designer, but I was never a great teacher. All of this came from my roots as being a television producer and a former stand-up comic when I was in San Francisco trying to make money when I was a social worker making no money. I was an entertainer. And that's what I think I did best. I think that I loved going in to lecture. I hated teaching. I loved designing quilts. I hated designing fabric. And I think I wish I could have, in looking back, I would have stayed in my lane. I think that this happens quite a bit with a lot of people who start getting famous, who have a celebrity in this area where, they write a book and then they do fabric and then they do other things. I think the magazines are kind of off the table now. I don't think that even happens anymore. That couldn't happen anymore like it happened with me. But I think there's a danger in that. There's a danger of overexposure. There's a danger in that the work you're best at begins to suffer. And then, also I did the TV show for 4 seasons with Jody Davis, which I enjoyed, but it was work. It was work. And I loved it and I hated it. And that's how I feel about celebrity. I loved meeting people. I love people. I love talking to people. I have to tell you that it was also difficult. I am an introvert at heart, so a lot of my bravado and my loudness and my off-color stuff is a way of keeping people at a distance. And so I had I had a hard time with it, although it didn't seem like I might. I did.
I understand.
I'm sure you do, because now you're like that. And I also, I remember this was, when I was doing the magazine, that was right at the beginning when everybody and their brother was doing a blog. And I remember people, you would hear stuff. I actually called Alex Anderson and I said, what the hell do I do? I mean, I would go into quilt stores and all of a sudden it would go quiet. Or I would hear people say my name, but they wouldn't approach me or talk to me. And then I would see what I was buying at the register on somebody's blog. Like, well, this is what he looked at. This is what he touched. That was really hard. That was hard for me. And in spite of how sassy I was, the criticism was hard. It was hard. And that's just part of the game. I know that from television. I know that. And I read something on Facebook the other day that was funny when somebody said, I think Bonnie Hunter posted something and she got a lot of blowback. And somebody wrote, you know, if you posted a bouquet of flowers, you would get 10 people criticizing the bouquet.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the truth. You just have to be a little thicker skin.
And you have to have some big shoulders.
Pardon me?
You have to have some big shoulders.
You have to have some very big shoulders. So anyway, so that's it. I would tell people, if you want to get into the business, find what you're good at, concentrate on that, and don't grow too quickly, and follow your heart, and don't follow the wallet, because ultimately there's not that much money in the wallet anyway when all is said and done.
Hey, you're starting to get some questions.
What is it?
Do cross-stitch patterns translate very well to quilt patterns?
Cross stitch, well, yes, they do. And let me tell you how. When I first started doing it, I thought if I matched the thread to my fabric and cut it in little squares and put it on that interfacing with the squares, I would have something that looked like a big cross stitch. Well, that doesn't work for me. I don't find that to be interesting. I don't find it to be creative. And when I go to a quilt show and I see somebody, God bless you if you're one of them, but when I see somebody who has digitized something on the computer and then just kind of replicates that on a quilt, I think it's not very appealing. However, if you take your cross stitch pattern and you have it colorized, you know, sometimes they give it to you in color, or you follow the symbols and you draw around it with soft lines, not squares, as per where the colors are. So now what you have done is you have separated all of your colors with lines, soft lines. So you have these like circles and shapes all over it. Then you match those colors to your various fabrics and you fuse them onto a blank fabric and then quilt over it. Then you have a beautifully done pictorial quilt.
I got a question. Is this Zoom going to happen every Wednesday at this time?
Yeah.
Same bat time, same bat channel. We have a fabulous list that I'll tell you about when we get to the door prize section. We have a fabulous list of people coming. We have where we record our episodes, and we have a YouTube channel, and we post on YouTube so that you can watch it afterwards. Let's.
I see a question. Should I just start answering questions that I see up here?
You could.
You want me to do that? Because
Can you read them? You don't need glasses?
Pardon me?
You don't need glasses?
No, believe it or not. No, here's what's weird. I had a cataract and I had it taken off, and now I haven't worn glasses in 2 years. Isn't that weird? And I was wearing them since I was in 6th grade. Savannah has this question about, since I've met so many people, do you have any clue why there are not many people of color who quilt? Which I think is a really interesting question. You know, my first quilt guild, well, and I don't know if those of you from New Jersey, when I started quilting 20, 30 years ago, I guess, there was a quilt guilds were pretty hot. And there was a quilt guild in my area, the Bergen County Quilt in Bergen County, New Jersey, that was so big that it had 2 meetings, a daytime meeting and a nighttime meeting, and they were both packed, and they would only allow 200 people into this guild. So when I first started quilting, I tried to get into the guild and they wouldn't accept me. At this time, I was on an AOL group chat for quilters, and I said, does anybody know of any quilt guild that will accept me? Well, my friend Sherlyn Freeland wrote to me, and she said, we would love to have you come to our quilt guild, but you need to know that we are all black. That's exactly what she wrote. Like I was going to say no. So I said, absolutely. Where are you? Well, they were the Nubian Heritage Quilters of Newark, New Jersey. So for my first 3 years of quilting, I belonged to an exclusively African-American quilt guild. And these women taught me everything I knew about color and handwork and bargains and quilting and tools, and I think I made my first stack and whack with them. it's always been a very sensitive spot for me about people of color in quilting, because when I went to Quilt Market and I went to quilt shows, I saw nobody of color. I saw no people of color. Maybe one or two out of a convention is not very many. And so when I did my magazine, I purposefully looked for people of color, just like I did when I was producing television. And I had a very, very difficult time. I have asked so many of my friends why we are not seeing more of an African-American representation, or Hispanic for that matter, people in the quilt shows. And I mean, I've gotten some pretty weird answers. Some were pretty strange, and I'm not even sure I want to share them, but I recognize, they recognize it, and I'm not quite sure how to stop it, other than just like with a Black Lives Matter kind of thing that we're going through now in our country, other than fabric companies and book authors specifically looking to diversify their clientele. That's the only way it's going to change. They're going to have to go out and grab people of color and bring them in. I never quite understood with the Hispanic population in our country. You know, my son is Hispanic. I adopted him from South America. Why our books aren't being translated into Spanish? That's a market that could be huge for us, but we're going to have Spanish-speaking teachers, and we're going to have to find some way to be more inclusive. So that's my answer to that. I hope that helps. Yes, I know, Carol, that Nubian is now in Montclair. I have been going to them. I was with them in Newark, and I moved to them to what was that house in Montclair in that little park? But yeah, I moved there with them, and then I got the magazine, and I stopped going to any quilt guild. And Glendora is still a dear friend of mine. I love Glendora. So that's what I know about that. How did I get into quilting? That's from Betty, and that's a really boring story, but when I adopted my son from South America, he was very ill. I was a single man. I lived in a penthouse in Manhattan on the 38th floor of the Riverbank West building. I had everything. I was a TV producer. I made a ton of money, and I was living high off the hog. And I was going to adopt a baby as a single gay man, which at that time was unheard of. And so I brought him home, and he was a very sick baby. So I took off a year from work between my work at Lifetime, and then when I went back to work, I went back to work for Oprah. So Evan and I moved to Chicago. But during that year, while he was healing and I was living with him, I would put him down for a nap, and I would turn on the TV, and this woman was on television. She was insane, and she talked to me like I was in third grade, and it was like so bizarre that I couldn't keep my eyes off of her. And don't forget, I had been a television producer for, I don't know, 15, 20 years at that point. And no, more like 15. And so I was just mesmerized. No budget, no anything. Just, she was making a quilt. And so I started watching her every day. And that was Eleanor Burns. And I started, I went to the Lower East Side. I bought a sewing machine, a used sewing machine at a flea market. I went to a place called the Rag Shop. That's where I bought my first.
Oh my, oh yeah.
I bought my first rotary cutter there, my first ruler at the Rag Shop, and I would quilt. And you know, what was interesting to me is I never saw a quilt before I made my first quilt, because when I was a kid in Pittsburgh, a quilt was something that your mom took you to Sears or J.C. Penney's and bought you a blanket that was full of fiber fill. It was like, and that's what we called a quilt. Well, I never saw a quilt. So when I sent my first quilt, which was a rail fence, out for quilting, to a friend in the Nubian Quilters Guild. She had a long arm, and at the time it was on wooden horses, and that's how her long arm was set up. She gave me back my quilt, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh my God, she ruined my quilt! She ruined my quilt." I didn't know quilts were only this big. I thought I was getting back a big fluffy thing that I got at Sears or Penny's. And so I had never even seen a quilt before I made my first quilt. And that's how I got started. And from there, then I quilted for a long time, just quilted. Oh, I know what happened. Then I made a quilt for my son when he went to camp. Pat Sloan saw the quilt when I took a class from Pat. She said, "I think my friend would like to see this quilt. Do you mind if I show it to her?" And I said, "No, I don't mind at all." So she took pictures, and I get a call from Beth Hayes, whom I did not know, who happened to be the editor-in-chief of McCall's Quilting. And she asked if she could publish that quilt with a story. And she did. It was called Evan's Camp Quilt, and it was on the cover. Or the blurb was on the cover. And after that, I said, "Would you mind if I sent you some designs to see if you would publish more?" And she said, "No." Well, I did. I sent her some designs, and she took almost everything I ever designed. And then from her, I went to other magazines, and then I quit work. My son, who is a special needs kid, he was deaf, and so when he was getting into junior high, I thought I better stay home with him, and I did. I left work, and those were the years when he did not need me and didn't want me around. So what I did was I just was sitting around bored, and I thought, I was so bored with the quilting magazines, and I thought, why don't I create a magazine for quilters of my generation, which at that point was like 40 years old. Now, you have to remember that the original quilt magazines were created for people that were much older than me. My generation were people who used to watch TV before they went to school. Before we watched, we had televisions. And so if you look at Quilter's Home and you go through page by page, you can still find them on eBay and stuff. But if you look at my magazine or remember the magazine, it was nothing more than a daytime talk show put into print. First you went into a story, and then you had a recipe, a cooking segment, and then you had a how-to segment, and then you had a heartfelt cry segment, and then you had what's new and exciting segment. Every issue of my magazine was nothing more than a daytime television show. It was Regis and Kathy. It was The View. It was Attitudes on Lifetime, all the shows that I worked on in print. And that's how I started.
So what do you think is like the number one issue that's happening now? I'll give you an example. I don't want to delve into a copyright thing, but what's the biggest issue you think is happening now? Like the publishers aren't publishing, the quilt shops are closing. I mean,
all right, so this is how I live my life. Believe it or not, through kidney, how do I turn this damn phone on? Through kidney, the loss of kidneys, the loss of a transplant, a brain tumor, you name it, I've had it, histoplasmosis, whatever. The thing is, when things start falling apart, and this sounds very cliche, but when things start falling apart, that's when things start falling together. Seems like a very bizarre time for us in the quilting industry because everything is so up in the air. How do you do this? How do you do a book when nobody's publishing? How do you get into magazines when all the magazines have closed? How do you do all of this kind of stuff? That is a problem. But that's where you get to create your own reality. Right now, folks, and the issue has always been, even with magazines, when I first sold my magazine to Prime Media, was that it was about distribution. So distribution is the issue. Creativity is not an issue with us. And now we have so many things right at our fingertips. We can publish our own books online. We could send patterns on, we could send it through the internet. You order something on Etsy and then you send it. It's right there. You could do books through Apple Books. You could sell hardback books through just made to order. This is a really exciting time. It seems not so great, but it's a really exciting time. And as we evolve, we're seeing so many exciting things. Can you imagine 20 years ago? Can you imagine 10 years ago? People were at the mercy of their quilt shops to get fabric. And now you can create your own fabric online with any number of programs and send it to Spoonflower and have your own fabric designs. My hunch is, now you didn't hear it from me, and I don't have any information. This is just what I think is going to happen. It's not going to be in too long a time before, it's all about money anyway, before the fabric companies get smart and they start having you order fabric directly from them. They will order it directly from them. You will order it online. They will print it out on big printers and like Spoonflower, and they will send it to you, cutting out the middleman, AKA the quilt shops, altogether. They won't need them. They'll become obsolete because all the funds now aren't split between them and a quilt shop and blah, 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 blah. It's all them. They only have to pay an in-house designer.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Now they'll use names, of course, because when you're hot, and that name will sell fabric. But let's take a look where we're going. Do you mind if I just be really frank and like very unpopular? You don't mind. You don't give a shit. Here we go. When I opened up I don't know whether it was a magazine or a website or whatever, to find out that Marsha Brady is now designing fabric for Moda, my head almost spun off and flew into a ditch.
Marsha Brady from the Brady Bunch?
Yes, she is now doing what Marie Osmond tried to do several years ago, was to break into the quilt market because there's money in Larry's bill. But I mean, I'm thinking to myself when I first started, and it's interesting, when I first started and how things change, Moda was somebody that I wouldn't even speak to because I was so unworthy. Even though I had a magazine, I had fabric lines, I would never even think to go to Moda. And now they're like doing Marsha Brady. I'm like, come on. How desperate are we for some kind of name that Marsha Brady now becomes a fabric designer? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And by the way, I've seen the fabric. God bless Marsha Brady. But how many goddamn years do we have to look at gingham and realize that's nothing new? I'm sorry, you guys. Sorry, Marsha. I do love you as an actress, but gingham, really? All right, so that's that.
We're starting to get a whole bunch of questions. Marsha Brady.
Look it up. I'm not bullshitting you. Look up Marsha Brady. Her name is, it's not,
Eve.
No, Eve Plum is Jan Brady.
Oh,
Maureen McCormick.
Maureen McCormick.
Which, by the way, may I just put out a shout out to Jan Brady, Eve Plum. Check out Eve Plum online. She is a painter and she's been painting for years, and I find her style and what she paints to be remarkable. I think she's a fabulous painting, and I would love to own one of Eve Plum's paintings, and I could see Eve Plum becoming a fabric designer. Marsha Brady, not so much. All right, what's the question?
All right, because we're starting to run out of time. Virtual meetings, teachings, workshops. Any thoughts?
Virtual meetings, teaching, workshops. I love them. I think they're accessible to everyone. I don't know whether you were available or all of you were listening when Stevie Graves and I were having a conversation about Road to California and what are we going to do next? Because they have, these shows have, you know, with this pandemic and people not being able to travel or not wanting to travel, and these giant shows have a real risk of going away forever. You know, they can go, this kind of climate can bankrupt people. So it's time to start looking for new ways of doing things. You know, Road to California, I taught there once. I visited a couple of times. I think it is a remarkable show, and I'm just using them as an example. This is not anything geared to Road to California. You could put in any quilt show. I think it's a fine, remarkable show, and it has a wonderful reputation.
You know, Matt Reese from Road to California, he's going to be a guest.
But who? Pardon me?
He's a guest on August 19th.
Who is? Oh,
Matt Reese? Yeah.
Yeah, a really nice guy. My point is that it is, when you have a place like Road to California, when you have a thing like Houston, you have to be there to enjoy it. This is another opportunity to figure out how to broaden Road to California. Not that someday they won't have a Road to California per se, or a Houston per se, or something in South Carolina, a big show where people will go to and flock to, as they always have. But this is the time, this is that exciting moment. This is that very exciting moment where you get to create other ways of getting people to Road to California. So you might have had 10,000 people show up at Road to California. I don't know what their numbers are. And again, I'm just using them as an example. You may have 10,000 people showing up every day at Road to California for the time that it is going on. But think about when it comes back and after you've lived through this pandemic. Now Road to California can now reach to everyone, not just in California, not just in the United States, not just Canada and Mexico, but the entire world. So how are you going to take this dreadful opportunity to create something wonderful for when Road comes back? So not only are they getting 10,000 people a day in, for instance, now they may have the opportunity of having 40,000 a day worldwide as well.
Stevie just texted 47,000 attended Road this year.
All right. So, okay, got it. So,
Yep.
I mean, I didn't know what your numbers were. I was only using this as an example. But my point, 40,000 people is terrific. But imagine now what it will be like if you could broaden that to have 147,000 throughout the world, because you have first-rate teachers, you have a great reputation, and now they could take the class not only in person, but they could also take it on Zoom. This is the time for every quilt teacher, every fabric designer, every designer, every book writer, to try to figure out how to start filming your stuff, taping it, how to use lighting, how to use camera, how to use your editing software, how to then start branching out so that you now become an independent, solely dependent on you. That way, when you go to a show, you're not dependent on that salary. You want to go meet your fans and you want to meet and greet, I get that. But you also have a base that is just yours. It's the difference between when we first started doing blogs, and the blogs were like, I don't know, Cherry Hill blog or Long Valley blog, as opposed to using your name, Sue Smith, Mark Lipinski, Stevie Graves, Linda Hahn, Deborah Stanley, because that is your brand. That name is your brand. It's, you know, things evolve. This is a way of evolving. And I think it's a very, very exciting time. It's a very exciting time for us as quilters, and we should use it to our best interest.
Cool. All right. All right, we're going to start heading down towards the door prize end. Thank you so very much. I'm so happy to see you. Debbie's been quiet. What you been doing there, Deb? Spotlight Deb.
I'm staying out of trouble. Just staying out of trouble. I think Mark is right. It's a good opportunity for, well, I was saying to Linda that it's a good opportunity that you can get to guilds that couldn't afford to fly you in. They may now be able to have you come virtually to their guild. And it might work out to have all different a different opportunity to reach people that you couldn't before.
Right. And what our responsibility as teachers is, well, I'm no longer teaching, but what our responsibility is to then, okay, so you have your video. Now work up a worksheet. Here's what you do here's my video. Here's how you get it on a big screen for your guild. Here's how we could talk live to your guild. Honestly, I think this is going to be a godsend, and it may, if it is, it's going to be a bumpy start because we are not the generation of computer literacy. Our children aren't. But, it could be a start to really revitalize the whole quilting movement. There are hardly any quilt shops around me anymore. To be frank, there are a couple, I think 3 in the state, 4 in the state, maybe.
Wow.
And there used to be so many more. I think this is such an opportunity. And just like the whole slow stitching, do your morning pages every morning, write your 3 pages. It'll come to you. You will figure out how to make a mint out of this hardship.
Yeah. Well, Deb, while you're there,
Yeah,
you're doing a sew-along on August 13th.
August
It's free.
13th.
What are you doing?
We're going to be making a little pieced mug rug just to practice piecing skills and learn some new techniques, just for fun.
So everybody's welcome to join Deb for the, here's my calendar. We're at 1 o'clock, right?
1 o'clock, yes.
1 o'clock for an hour. You're going to sit and sew with Deb. And then
That's right.
we're doing a market bag class on August 15th.
Right.
You have that with you?
No, it's in the other room, of course. Go get it.
Of course. Well, all right, then I'm spotlighting. I'm going to show mine. Okay. What we're doing is we're doing a couple of private classes every month, and you can sign up for those on our website, froghollowdesigns.com. And mine, if you did not see my Facebook commercial, is
That's cute.
That's cute.
I'm known for my New York Beauty technique, and this is a Peak Skill Peepers, and that is on. There it is. Hang on. That is on August 22nd, from 12 to 3. I'm doing a scrap quilt class on Thursday the 20th. Deb Sew Along. The date of the mug rug class for the question is August 13th. And I will post on our So What
Eastern time.
Zoomcast.
Eastern time.
Eastern time, yeah. I got to start remembering to do that. So we're doing some virtual classes. We're also doing some guild work, and we're doing So What to make you turn off the world for an hour. We do this every Wednesday. Our guests coming up are, for August, we have Mary Kerr is coming. Pepper Corey is coming. We have Matt Reese from Road to California, and he has a big announcement on August 19th. I know what it is, and I take bribes. We have Carol Lyle Shora coming for Modern Quilts. And we also just heard from Patience Griffin. And she, what's her books? She writes novels.
Kilts and quilts. They're about Scotland, about quilts.
Yeah, quilts.
Shop
Oh, yeah.
in Scotland, yeah. Kilts and quilts.
Yeah. How do you get notification lists for all these? It is the same Zoom number and the same password. And if anybody's even interested, I teach Zumba for quilters. We have some national teachers and quilters on, and it's Monday and Wednesday at 9:30 every morning. I'm sorry, not every morning. Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning. Okay, my bottle is just half empty, so I'm not that bad yet.
Same Zoom information. Same
Yeah.
meeting number, same password.
Yes, froghollowdesigns.com is where you sign up for classes. And my Facebook page, Frog Hollow Designs, that has all our business stuff, what the classes are going to be. So if you just like that page, or you can go to Frog Hollow Designs. And my husband, who works for beer, remember that when you read anything, he is our new newsletter person. And we're giving him the information, and he is responsible for sending out the newsletter. So, did we cover everything, Deb?
I think so.
Okay, that
Well,
means that
wait
we get
too
them
long.
charged up.
I can't wait to watch because I think it sounds like a great lineup, you guys.
We're
Yeah.
trying, and we take suggestions. Wait a minute, what is the link? Is it all Frog Hollow or others? Frog Hollow Designs on Facebook. I do post classes. Also, I share classes from our friend Joyce Hughes and Cheryl Lynch. Myself and Deb, we put them on there. So just friend us and you'll find out everything that's going on.
But if you want information on the So What Zoomcast, it has its own Facebook page
So
as
we have our
well.
own Facebook page. So
Hi, Cheryl. Wave to me. She
that
can't-
means it's door prize time. And I get to play with my ding dongs. I wait all afternoon for this.
Oh, it brings me back to my youth.
Okay. When we pick our door prize, let's make sure everybody, we need to see your camera. We need to see you. So there's a whole
Hold
bunch
up your,
of people.
hold up your
Cameras
glass.
on. Okay, we got 4 pages of people, so we're gonna do 1 prize for every page. Somebody knows it. Billy, you got it. Look at you. You know what you're supposed to do. Okay, page 1. Deb, would you like to do page 1?
I will. Okay, let's see.
Let's
So
do
I need
some,
to,
Turn around.
Shelley Hoffman.
Shelly Hoffman, hang on. Let us spotlight you.
There you go.
We're
Shelley
gonna
Hoffman.
unmute yourself. What is in that glass?
Okay, I have fresh squeezed orange juice with a little hint of white wine.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
What do you think, people?
Yes, I say thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah,
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Thumbs up on page 3. Thumbs up on page 4.
There you go.
Here you go. Put your email in the chat, please.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Page. This is page 1. Page 2. Where's Joyce Hughes? Joyce, you ready? Oh, look at it. We even got a sign.
Pick me.
Where's Joyce? Joyce, did you pick one?
She's muted.
Oh, can you unmute her? Because I'm on page 2.
I lost Joyce. Hang on a second.
You lost Joyce. Hold on.
Okay, no, here I am.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Savannah, okay.
I got Savannah and she
Joyce
was
is giving,
fine.
oh,
Is that who you ended up with?
Yeah,
Savannah, it was you.
yes.
Everyone,
What do you got in that glass?
I have some Long Island iced tea in my beautiful.
Oh,
And there's liquor in there? Okay, go back to gallery. What do you think? Page 2, people.
Very
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Would you drink that?
Oh,
You
no.
getting all thumbs up? Page 3, thumbs up.
Oh, I love a Long Island iced tea.
Oh, you got a
Oh,
ding
my
dong.
God, I love a Long Island iced tea.
Put your email in the chat, please.
Thank you, guys.
Let me find
Love you,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you for coming. All right, Mark, you ready? You're going to go on page 3.
Make sure hold on, I'm on page 2. Hold on, let me get to page 3. All right, I'm not looking. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, this is so scary.
Make sure the cameras are on.
Yeah, a lot of not off on page 3.
Oh, does it have to be on?
Yes.
Okay, forget it. I hit I'm not on. All right, here we go again. I hit Suzanne A.
Suzanne A. Let me spotlight you and unmute yourself.
There she is.
What's in your glass?
It's a Cape Cod cranberry juice and vodka.
Okay. What do you think, page 3?
I didn't hear it.
Cranberry juice and vodka, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Page 3.
definitely.
Thumbs up, page 3.
Plus,
Thumbs
Suzanne
up,
looks like
page
she could
2.
really tie one on. I think Suzanne could be a sloppy drunk here. I love that.
And thumbs up on page 1. Suzanne,
know
you
what page
know,
I'm on.
put your... Okay, where is Stevie? Stevie is picking the Banyan Batik bundles. You can choose your screen, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Turn around. World up.
It's Kitty O'Toole. Let's sing. It sounds like a jig.
Where's Kitty? Where is she? I'm looking for you. Hold on.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Oh, I see Kitty.
Who got Denise? You alcoholic. You got a bottle. Somebody after my own heart. There's Kitty. Kitty, so what's in your glass? Hi.
Coke Zero. I'm at work. I'm working
Oh.
really hard.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask.
I'm on a break.
Mark,
I love you.
No, that's
You
it.
know, if you show a little cleavage, you'll get by with the Cloak Zero.
Put your email in the chat for Debbie.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Stevie, you can do one more.
Oh, wait a minute.
Banyan Batik bundle.
Let me get off of page 3. Oh. Who's that?
And we do this every week, so you're drinking every week.
Okay. I have a mwaymank@gmail.com.
Is your
she's
camera
got something in her
on?
hand.
Is your camera on?
Yes.
Oh, there she is. I see her in the
I
pink.
see her. I
Yeah.
see her. Okay. Unmute yourself. What is that?
It's peach snapple. It's lunchtime in Arizona.
So, like, you didn't sneak any liquor in there?
People
I
don't
did-
drink in
I
Arizona.
didn't know it was a liquor thing, or I would have brought something more interesting.
Got the buzzard. That's funny.
Put your email. Put your email in the chat.
Okay,
You're gonna get a
thank you.
Banyan Batik bundle in about a week
These ladies.
from our
That's
sponsor.
a good prize there, girlfriend.
Yeah, we love Banyan Batiks. Now it's my
Yeah,
turn.
if I had known that, I wouldn't be drunk right now.
Okay, what
Oh, I
page should
kind
I
of wish
do?
I was.
What page should I do?
1.
One.
We need page 1. Okay.
Of course, I don't know what page I'm on.
Me either.
Page
I'm
1.
Oh, look at all the people now.
Oh, lots of people in one.
Harry Clayton.
Yay!
Yay! There she
All right.
is.
Hi.
Hi. What do you got in there?
I didn't know the game plan. I have a ginger peach smoothie with almond milk.
All right, can I just ask a question? Do none of you broads know how to lie?
Like I said, I'm new to this program. Well, really, I do have some tequila in here too.
There you go. That's the one I want to hear, Terry.
Yeah,
Oh, you got
there you go.
tequila in there? Okay. You got a ding dong. Okay, that's what we do every week. So we have different kinds of door prizes every week, depending on who's on, what's going on. So we do door prizes. We try to have somebody interesting on, and we try to have fun. You see, everybody was laughing and shaking. I guess we'll accept signs now. Maybe we'll have a sign contest to get our attention. And so does anybody have any questions before we head out? We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, and we'll see you again. Yeah. Oh, a question for me. I'm in Palm Bay, Florida. And Deb is in Matawan, New Jersey.
Just for the record, you know, the three of us knew each other before we were Linda Hahn, Deborah Stanley, and Mark Lipinski.
Yeah. We used to take classes together.
We would take classes together and just kind of hang quilts together or take them off together or unhang them together. Yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
Long time. Hey, were you one of the ones responsible for getting my husband to be president of the Quilt Guild?
Oh, probably. Who else wanted to do it? Nobody wanted it.
Okay, so you get. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You know, that's the problem with the Quilt Guild. Everybody wants the Quilt Guild. Nobody wants to participate or to take a leadership role. That's always the issue. Not just Quilt Guilds. That's like that for the PTA. It's like that for, you know, the young Christian, you know, whatever it is, the Christian mothers, whatever it is. Everybody wants it to be there. Nobody wants to really support it with a little elbow grease. So get out there and just do a little elbow grease. By the way, you know, I just want to say about that too. You know, you meet some of the nicest people when you volunteer to get involved in your organizations. And like Linda and Deb and I, we've been friends for, oh my God, a good, 20 some years.
20, yeah.
And you know, it just started out by us volunteering to do something that we had an interest in. And here we are today. And by the way, we still look flawless.
Yes, of course.
And, you know, I got it. When you guys got him to be president, my husband used to be president of the fire company. And it's really different than being president of a quilt guild. The firemen would have an argument. They might come to blows. And then they'd go out and have a beer.
Right, right.
Women, they're bitches.
Sometimes.
It didn't work that way. And
it depends on the
to
personality.
explain that to him.
It just depends on the personalities, that's all.
And he didn't know. So I would have to go in the bathroom and hide and call Lacey and tell her to call him. Just because I didn't want to get involved. I was trying to stay out of it.
Me too.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Well,
but that
guys,
was.
Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate seeing all of your little faces, every single page of you.
We had a great time, and
Thank
we're
you.
really happy all the pickle people came.
People came.
We have our regular folks, and we hope you'll be back and hang out with us again. Is that Barbara Wolf?
What about this? 87 people or something was watching live. As soon as the last prize was given, it's 50. What
Yeah.
the hell?
I'm still here.
What the hell?
Well,
Make it
last-
a buzz, Linda Hahn.
The last prize would be Mark Lipinski.
No, really.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh!
My swimming pool is right over there.
He had a mouse in his swimming pool.
Yeah, I found a mouse in my swimming pool this morning, and it wasn't swimming.
You have to put little ladders in there for him.
You know what? They have little ladders for frogs. Did you see those?
Yes, yeah. And for chipmunks.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. So
They have them for dogs too.
Oh, they
You
do?
can get one for your dog so that if your dog falls in, it has a way to get out.
Yeah, you know, when my tulip was alive, she fell in. She went right to the bottom. She just sank. I thought they were like instinctively supposed to swim. That sucker, here's me trying to go to the bottom of the pool. Fat old me trying to get down there to pick up fat old her. It was a sight.
Well, the problem is when you're fat, you automatically float.
Not in the case of a fat pug, apparently.
Oh, well, a pug, that's something totally different, Mark.
She wasn't having it. She's like me. She didn't burn a calorie for anything, even to save her own life.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the name of the new puppy?
You know, I told you, I'm having a really rough time. My family are pain in the asses. There's only 3 of us, and each of us have a name we want, and so we can't come to a consensus. It looks as though it's going to be Marigold, but in my heart, she's Susan. And
yeah.
she went to get her shot today, but she was still too tiny, even though she's age-wise prepared. She's not weight ready, and you know she has a lazy eye, right? Did I tell you that?
No. She needs glasses.
So when she's over there, she's looking over here. And,
It's two different.
and the vet said that she might grow out of it, but she might not. So I named her Black-Eyed Susan, and now I'm calling her Cross-Eyed Susan. But so I think Susan is right. But Evan is convinced. Baby Dumpling says it's got to be Marigold. Well, he wanted Daffodil, so he acquiesced to Marigold, which is what Mr. Electric wanted. So I guess it's going to be Marigold. I don't know.
You can always call her your own pet name.
I voted.
That's what I thought. As long as I voted. As long as you have a snack in your hand, she'll come for anything.
Yeah.
So she's awfully cute, I have to tell you. But that little wonky eye does give me I don't know. It's very horror movie. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't, I don't know. It's the Catholic perfectionism that just is like, this can't happen. And I said to Jeff, Mr. Electric, I don't care if this hound walks into trees. I am not spending $1,000 to get her eye fixed.
Oh, God.
She's just gonna have to learn how to make it. I have a deaf son. You have a father with a brain tumor. Mr. Electric just got hearing aids. Why not a cockeyed dog? Why not? Let's just bring her in.
Kind of rounds out the family.
I know. We're like the island of misfits from Rudolph.
Oh, my.
I think you're wonderful.
Well, thank you. I
I am so happy you were able to come on.
I'm so happy you invited me. People don't invite me anymore because I'm irrelevant, but that was really nice of you to ask.
You're not irrelevant.
No. Yeah. But
You're one of our quilt heroes.
maybe. I know. I still would be if I didn't get sick, but it was just too much to handle all at once.
I know. I've had cancer twice. It's
The
hard.
thing is, the problem was that I was booking like a year or two in advance, and then all of a sudden I would have this horrible health crisis, and I would have to cancel at the last minute and call Eleanor Burns and Paula Nadelstern and all my friends to kind of fill in for me, which, by the way, how lucky were they? Yeah. That they got these really good quilt teachers. They didn't get me for all my bullshit, and they got like fine teachers. So, they're like, please lose another kidney.
That's how Josh Groban got noted.
How is that?
He replaced somebody on Celine Dion's show, from what I understand.
That's how Lainey Kazan got her start when she replaced Barbara Streisand in Funny Girl. Interesting. And Lainey and I have so much in common. When I put on a black wig, I look exactly like Lainey Kazan. All right, all you drunken ladies, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Think we're
Thank
done.
you.
I love you all.
Thank
We got
you.
another glass left.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hope
Thank you.
Bye.
So,
see you
Bye.
all
See you
next week. Same time, same channel.
See you next week.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, Linda.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Deb, you got all those door prizes?
Yes, I do.
Linda, thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
I'm going to pause the recording.
Joyce, Hughes, and Cheryl, don't forget, Tuesday.